San Francisco 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan just called rookie Dominic Puni the starting right guard for this team. Now, it's not like he officially announced it. He didn't go on to KBR to be like, listen, Dominic Puni's our starting right guard. He said it in a way where he was trying to justify a decision, which was starting Brock Purdy and playing him in this preseason game against the Saints. So this felt like, not that he's holding it back or anything in that regard, but it's the first time it's been verbalized. It's the first time it's been discussed because, as we know, Dominic Puni made his way into the starting lineup due to injury. So that changes the context in how Kyle Shanahan explained it. I'll play the clip for you. We'll listen to it, but I wanted to do a live reaction to this news because I think it's pretty substantial. But you guys let me know what you think, and we'll discuss it all. But first, drop an SDS in the chat. Smash that like button. This is good news to me. Let's go. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. Oh, baby, I am hyped off this news. And again, I don't think it was intentionally meant to be said, but it was. And I've listened back a couple times. I'm like, yeah, he did. He called Dominic Puni the starting right guard. So I am very hyped about this right now because, as you guys know, did a film breakdown on Dominic Puni. Absolutely phenomenal. You can see, and again, context being it is preseason, so I recognize that, but also understanding that Dominic Puni just played against the starting Saints defensive line. That is actually a pretty talented group. So, considering he was going up against their starters, he was going up against some high quality defensive tackles, and the way he still performed, this I do believe he's earned this job. Like it's his, he's earned it, and I feel like this is the first time in a long time that like we feel real like, and that's crazy to say because obviously with Spencer Burford and his like start, he was platooning. We had never seen that before. At least I hadn't at this level where you had Burford starting, but then you would rotate in Brunskill. And then last year was obviously his first full season, but it ended up with Jonathan Feliciano starting all the way through basically the postseason. So it's just a lot of questions regarding like some of those guys. You know, obviously Aaron Banks has kind of solidified the left guard spot. A lot of people are questioning what the center spot is, but like this first time that we feel like, man, like we have someone. Like this is how I felt when the San Francisco 49ers drafted one of my he was my first offensive line draft crush ever. It was Mike Iupati. Mike Iupati was my first, like when I first started getting into like draft evaluation, Mike was my first draft crush from an offensive line standpoint. And we drafted him. And it's hard not to feel a lot of those same feelings with like Dominic Puni because you're seeing a guy who is polished. He's talented. He's large. He's strong. He's fast. He's big enough. And he feels like, yeah, we got a guy. Now, obviously, it's still very early on into his career. We're not crowning him yet. The first step right now is to be the starter and be the starter for a full season. We're not going to put him in the Hall of Fame yet. We're not going to crown him as the best offensive lineman ever. That's not what we're going to do. We're just sharing the excitement with the simple fact that, man, the interior offensive line has under the Kyle Shanahan regime has been something that has gone through many iterations, and just it's been a revolving door for the most part at a lot of these positions. Even when you've had guys there, they've still been either injured or rotating. So it's just been like this. We're just waiting for the dust to settle on the interior, and it appears it is settling with 49ers Dominick Puni. So I'm going to play the clip so we can listen to it and we can all hear it together, and we can make our
not specific people, but
determinations together. So let's take a listen as Kyle Shanahan actually was going on KMBR and the direct question is, which you will hear from Tolbert, is he's asking Kyle about the criticism for playing Brock Purdy and playing Brock Purdy against a bunch of backups on the offensive line. And so that's why I felt like this kind of slipped out unintentionally. And again, it's not like he's trying to hide it, but I do think it's a pretty solid indication that Dominick Puni is going to be your starter. So let's take a listen to it right here.
not specific people, but a lot of people thought it was quote unquote crazy to play Brock behind that offensive line without having your number one offensive line in here, that you're risk getting him hurt. I don't buy it, but how do you respond to it?
I mean, I get what people say, but I think sometimes people are just trying to be a little bit dramatic with it. If we obviously thought it was something that he couldn't protect himself or the guys couldn't match up at all, then we wouldn't do it at all. But we didn't feel that way. We liked the reps that Brock got. He was excited to play. He was in there with possibly our two starting tackles, our starting center, our starting right guard, and Banks was down.
You hear that? He said, so for the people who are freaking out, he said possibly. And again, this also to me is an indication that he believes that Dominick Puni is the starting right guard. He didn't say possibly our starting right guard. He didn't say will possibly due to injury because, Burford could be back by that time. He didn't say possibly our starting right guard. He said possibly our starting two tackles, because obviously one of those tackles is Jalen Moore. So it's funny seeing everyone freak out about him saying possibly. But again, that also puts an emphasis on the point of him not saying possibly about Dominick Puni. He called Dominick Puni the starter, our starter.
Guard, and he was in there with possibly our two starting tackles, our starting center, our starting right guard, and Banks was down.
You hear it? He said possibly our starting left tackles, because obviously Trent Williams is not in. And if Trent Williams isn't in, it would be Jalen Moore to start. We do know Colton McKivitz will be starting at the right tackle position. So it appears to me to be crystal clear that, again, I don't think it's a big announcement. Obviously, we know there's injuries at the position. We know Feliciano's not walking through that door. We know Spencer Burford isn't a full participant at practice yet. So, but again, there's no hesitation. There was no hesitation. There was no clarifying. He called him our starting right guard while he clarified that Jalen Moore clearly isn't the starter, but he is the possible starter. So in the same sentence, while clarifying a possible starter, he refers to Puni as our starter. So I think that's a good sign, and I do think he's earned it. Tony says, of course he's the starting guard. Feliciano had knee surgery. Well, guess who was the starting guard in training camp when Feliciano returned to practice? Dominick Puni. It wasn't Jonathan Feliciano. Feliciano was backing up Puni. not the other way around. So we also know the answer to that. We saw it for a couple days up close and personal when Feliciano returned. He was more of a backup center at that particular time than he was at Feliciano with with Puni. So even when Feliciano returned to the lineup and was a full participant in practice, he didn't unseat Dominic Puni. He was more rotating in with the ones at center, not at right guard. So even with this notion that, well, of course, Feliciano's hurt. When Feliciano wasn't hurt, he still wasn't the starter over Puni. So to me, that's the emphasis. Is all the signs are right there in front of us. The tape is there in front of us. You guys know I'm crazy and I'm breaking down preseason tape. Remember, we had a lot of fun with breaking down Manning last year's preseason and just how fun it was to watch him. So I break down preseason tape. So this isn't the first time I've done this. This is multiple years of breaking, not only covering training camp, but breaking down preseason tape, breaking down regular season tape, watching every rep of this offensive line for the last couple years. This is some of the best interior offensive line play that I have seen since I have covered the 49ers. And it's not hyperbole. It's really what it is. Like, he's playing that well. He is playing at that high of a level. He's playing with that high of instincts for a rookie this soon, this early. This is unnatural. Like, this isn't unheard of, or like, this is unheard of for the most part. Like, yes, we get rookie starting offensive linemen all the time, but again, we saw it against Hargrave in training camp. We're seeing it against Cam Jordan in real game reps. We're seeing it against Breesy in real game reps. This guy is like, he's as advertised. This isn't the same level of excitement. This isn't the same level of excitement as like Ilm. Like, Ilm was a fun project that, like, absolutely someone that I wasn't anticipating. He's an undrafted free agent, this, that, and the other thing. Like, this guy is a third round draft pick. And you're seeing that absolutely his skill set is not only transitioning to this level of play, but he might be playing better than any other interior offensive lineman on the 49ers right now. And I'm not even going to say I think he is. He is right now from what we've seen of training camp and what we've seen of preseason, he is the best interior offensive lineman that we have right now. That's crazy. That's crazy. So for Kyle Shanahan to basically stamp him as the starter, that was good. Remember when you were sad in the draft that the other offensive lineman got picked up before him? I was sad that we didn't get Blake Fisher. I wasn't as sad about Kingsley Suamataia because after I did more, and I said that, I was more upset that we gave the potential of Kingsley Suamataia to the Chiefs. I wasn't upset at the player. I was upset that we gave it to the Chiefs, and we were responsible for that. So what I was like sad about was like, what if, like, okay, I'm not, I cooled off Kingsley. I started off hot on Kingsley with limited tape. As I started to get into the tape, I could see the technical aspects that I wasn't in love with. And those things are always, hit or miss in the NFL. I wouldn't say you want to go to the NFL to like hone in on your technique or learn technique for the first time. Like, you got to come ready as a technically advanced offensive lineman if you want to survive at the next level. So there were some things that stood out to me, and I didn't love the player. I wouldn't have been mad at the player, but I didn't love the player. Like, I kind of felt early on my first impression of him. I was more at the like, all right, we just lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. You trade with the Chiefs and they go and get Kingsley Suamataia. And like, if Kingsley Suamataia turns out to be a guy, then yeah, that's going to sting a little bit, knowing that we gave it to him. So that's all that was. I really wasn't too upset about the Kingsley pick. But who knows? Like, Kingsley could still turn out to be a really good player. I think he is. Someone said in the chat he's starting left tackle for the Chiefs. He definitely could be a really good player, and he could develop into a guy that's really good. That is definitely a possibility with him. But with Puni, although he isn't a tackle and he is a guard and he does have the ability to play center, you can see all of his experience showing up. You can see it all. Like, he is clearly logged hundreds and hundreds of reps playing offensive line and playing all over the offensive line. And again, that's why it's like we identified the 49ers draft shift of taking young prospects and going with seasoned prospects. And at first, I didn't love it, right? Because I'm admittedly an ageist when it comes to the draft. I would love to get 21, 22 year old prospects, because the thought is by the time they're ready for their second contract, they are peaking. They are in the prime of their careers. So you align second contract with the peak years. So you're paying for what they've done, and then you're paying through their peak years, not like getting an older, like 24-year-old rookie and then paying them at 27, 28 when they're already kind of on the downturn at that particular time, and you got them on their peak was through their rookie contract. So that has typically been my thought process. But when you look at the younger guys who the 49ers have drafted, they haven't panned out. They haven't been plug and play type guys. And so I can see why that has changed, because it really just comes down to reps and experience. You can't coach experience. You have to go out there and do it and live it and learn from your mistakes and go through the fire to be able to manage future situations. So they went out and got guys with tons of experience, tons of reps under their belt. And I think we are like, Jacob Cowing is turning into a stud in front of our eyes because he has a ton of reps. He did a ton at UTEP, and then he transfers to Arizona, balls out at Arizona, tons of reps under his belt. Renardo Green, tons of reps under his belt. Dominick Puni, 6 years, I believe, in college it was. These guys have so many reps, and so the transition is less steep when they go from college to the NFL. And I'm like, I honestly can't be mad at it. I can't be mad at going for more experienced college players, because we're seeing it pay off. We're seeing the early returns. I think that's why we're talking about this draft class like we are. One Kingdom Ranch says he definitely called on Green. Green was my guy. I didn't see anyone else talking about Renardo Green throughout the draft process. So I do feel pretty good about that one, because I you do those tweets like, oh, don't sleep on this guy. I said, don't sleep on Renardo. Hold on. I'm going to look at something. I might share it with you. I might not. I might share it with you. Let's see. All right. I'll share it with you. So like I've been following Renardo on Instagram for like 3 years before this draft. So like I was familiar. I've been watching Renardo like his whole career. So I've just been, waiting, for him to enter the draft. And when it was time, we did our tape work, and we're like, yeah, this guy's legit. And it was funny. He had made a post on an Instagram story because no one was talking about him. Like literally, you didn't see a draft like breakdown, a pundit, like a tweet. Like there really was almost nothing on this kid, and he had made a post along the lines of like, man, they're sleeping on me. Man, I'm gonna wake them up because they're sleeping on me. And I was like, oh yeah, I like this. And so I actually I DM'd him. I responded to his particular story post, and this is what I said. I said, going on Bleacher Report in about an hour to put the people on game. Yeah, because you could see I'm replying to the story, and again, the context of the story was like they're asleep on me. They're sleeping on me. And I said, going on Bleacher Report in about an hour to put people on game, and there's Renardo right there. And the segment of this particular Bleacher Report stream was sleepers the 49ers must draft. And Renardo was like one of the guys that I highlighted the most. So, yeah. And you could see the date, obviously, well before the draft. So, Renardo's my guy. I'm super happy for the success that he's having because it's not on me. It's on him. It's his talent. It's his work ethic. It's his effort that just makes me sound smart. But it's all him. The talent was all there. It was all there. He was super slept on for whatever reason heading into this draft class. And I'm happy for him, dude. Happy for the success. Sounds like he could be a starting cornerback for us. So super hyped on that. Justin says Renardo looking great, man. This whole rookie class has me hyped. I mean, Justin's looking like an absolute genius right now for being the founding member of the Cowing Hive. Listen, man, we got a good thing going here with the Sourdough Scouts. I'm just saying. The NFL people need to start paying attention to the Sourdough Scouts because we got something cooking. We got founding member of the Cowing Hive. Justin is the reason why I looked into cowing. He was the reason why I started pulling up the tape. He's the reason why I went and interviewed cowing at the combine. It's because Justin's the one who put me on game. And I was like, yeah, I see it. And I love the story because I tell it all the time. When Justin was sending me clips of like, check out this cowing guy, I was like, oh, he looks good. It was like 6'1", 6'2". He looks like you contested catches. He's high pointing the ball. Like he's elevating. I was like, yeah, he looks good size. Justin's like, dog, he's 5'8". I said, what? That guy's 5'8"? He's like, yeah, he's like 5'8". I'm like, oh. I was like comping him to like 6'1", 6'2" players. It's like, nah, he's 5'8", dude. I'm like, no way. But that's one of the things that I consistently talk about with Cowing that I love about him is that he plays so much larger than his frame is. Like I don't know, even looking at him, like he doesn't even look 5. I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, Cowing's good. Malik Mustafa's good. Just wait till we get a good read on Ricky Pearsall and Isaac Garendo. Like, yeah, dude, this class is exactly like what we've seen so far. This is exactly what we've needed. Exactly what we've needed. Justin says Cowan had another 40-yard deep catch at practice on Luter today from pass from Mordecai. That's what I was saying, dude. Like when I was credentialed for 49ers training camp, that was the first practice he returned, and the first practice he had all training camp up until that point. He scored a touchdown in team period. He made an acrobatic catch. He made like 2 or 3 other plays. He's a playmaker. He is absolutely a playmaker. So doesn't matter. That's again, man, like that's why and Justin and I, we spent a lot of time talking about this because a lot of the prospects that we liked didn't have elite measurables. And when you like a prospect who doesn't have the prototypical measurables, you're met with a lot of pushback from people who for whatever reason just want to push back. And what I love about how we evaluate is we're looking for the exception to the rule. A lot of GMs, they don't like that. They're trying to check all these boxes. And when you're just out there to check boxes, that's how you miss on some phenomenal prospects. So I'm always actually looking for the exception to the rule. So guys like Jacob Cowing, they don't scare me. Guys with shorter arms as offensive linemen don't scare me as prospects because you can either play or you can't. So that's all part of and again, you can view and analyze and critique and scout prospects however you want. I don't care. But it's always funny how they come at you and they tell you you're wrong because he can't ride the big rides at Great America, so he can't play in the NFL. And it's like, all right, well, that's an easy way. That's an easy cop out. But do you watch him play? Do you actually understand how he wins and the things he does so he wins? That's the thing. Like that's why it's like whenever someone approaches me with, "Oh yeah, well," and then insert lack of measurable, I'm like, yeah, sure, but I don't care. I don't care because that's not what I'm looking for. You know, you don't walk up to the line of scrimmage and pull out a tape measure and measure the guy's arm length or time their shuttle. Do those things matter? Of course, but guys can overcome those things. Dominic Puni even said he doesn't even have the longest arms himself. Would you have known that? No, because that's not how people play football. Yes, it goes into the evaluation. Yes, we can get hyper fixated on the measurables. Yes. But as we know, football's about the intangibles. I don't know how many times we got to say it. Of course, there's always going to be an element of a physical presence, physical size, all of those things, height, weight, speed, always is going to exist. So we're not omitting that. But it's also, man, it's also intangible, and intangible can overcome measurable. And I'm a firm believer in that. So that's why if I see an intangible player who has elite intangible in some instance or some sense, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to plant my flag on that player and be like, this is a good player. Yes, he's lacking this measurable. Yes, he's lacking this. Yes, he doesn't compare to this guy, but he's just a good player. He's just a football player. Oh no, now he has T-Rex arms. uh, good stuff. Good stuff. I love it. I'm hyped. I'm hyped off this, dude. Like I really am. I'm really excited about Dominick Puni. I really haven't been this excited in an offensive lineman in a long time. With Aaron Banks, he had to prove it to me. With Spencer Burford, he had to prove it to me. With I probably haven't been this hyped on offensive lineman since Daniel Brunskill. But in regards to a prospect, I don't know if I've been this hyped on a 49ers offensive lineman since, in all honesty, I didn't love the Mike McGlinchey pick. That was another prove it to me pick. Is probably Mike Iupati. Mike Iupati or Trent Brown. I might say Trent Brown. I probably haven't been this hyped on an offensive lineman since Trent Brown. I really liked Trent Brown. Il Manning hype was fun. It was fun, but again, we didn't know how far it would go. I had fun with the Il Manning hype because he was a surprise. No idea who he was, and then he's coming out playing really well in preseason. But like legitimate, like this guy is not only going to be a starter, but could be better than just a guy starting. It's probably either Trent Brown or Mike Iupati. No, it's probably Mike Iupati, honestly. And I love that they wear the same number. It makes me happy. How do I think Keenan's going to do with Caleb? I mean, Caleb looks all right. I feel like the Bears actually managed the Caleb situation really well. So I think they'll have more success sooner than we realize. Kingston has over 16 snaps, 0 pressures. He'll be good too. I'm really curious to see if Kingston makes the roster. I would imagine that he might not. He could. He definitely could be a surprise. He could prove me wrong, and he could sneak onto the roster. I just kind of feel like with where things are currently at with the numbers aren't stacking out into his favor. So I don't know. We'll see. He to me feels like a good practice squad guy. Like he's in the marinating class. Just marinate. Putting him on the practice squad, let him marinate. You know? That's what I want to see. So, but I do see something in Kingston. Like he's got some power. Like he almost knocked some dude flat on his butt on a trap. It was against the Titans. And that was one of the things that stood out to me at USC was he was a really good puller. And he did it in the NFL and he almost knocked the dude on his butt. And I'm like, oh, it translates. So with Kingston, he's just a guy you want to marinate. He's going to be an interior guy. Obviously, he can play tackle, but I think you want him on the interior for sure. But you have him as a practice squad guy right now. At least that would be what I would try to do. But we'll see. We'll see. You guys can ask any other questions. I'm done talking about what I wanted to talk about. If you guys have any random questions, rookie related questions, roster related questions, Brandon Ayuk related questions, or Trent Williams related questions, Go for it. Ooh, punt returner. I kind of like Jacob Cowing. I'm gonna say that we take this hype that Cowing has been able to produce early on, and we get the ball in his hands, because I don't know how often the 49ers are going to be able to get the ball in his hands, especially with Ayuk potentially returning. But as we know, it's going to be a challenge, at high level. It could not be a challenge. They could force him onto the field. But I think you go Cowing there. Try him out. See what he does. Do I think Kingston will be Banks' replacement come next season? I think Puni will. I think Puni will shift over to left guard, and then Kingston could be right guard replacement. Or Burford could jump back into that role. But I think unfortunately, barring listen, I don't want this to happen. I want Banks to come out and have a good season. If Banks comes out and has a good season, I think that's a good problem to have. And then the 49ers would be more inclined to retain Banks if he has a good season. I will say I haven't been overly impressed with his off season. So it's a big year for Banks. I do believe it's a pretty substantial year, considering Puni already. I hate saying it because it's still early, but so far, Puni looks better than Banks. So, but again, I still got a lot of hope for Banks. I really hope that something clicks for him and he's able to come out here on fire when he gets back into the starting lineup and balls. Like, that's what I'm hoping for. I don't want a regression from Aaron Banks. I think that would be bad for the 49ers. I hope he balls out. I hope. Are we going to get Max Crosby against Jalen? It sounds like Kyle wants to play the starters for the full half. So sounds like we're going to get everyone out there. Sounds like we're going to get Debo. Sounds like we're going to get Juwan. I doubt we're going to get McCaffrey, but we could get some Kittle, Jordan Mason, Elijah Mitchell. Do you think Purdy holds on to the ball too long? Absolutely, he's holding on to the ball too long because he doesn't have any wide receivers to get open. What you guys got a glimpse of during that preseason game against the Saints is what I got to watch all training camp. Now, it wasn't all like that. That's being hyperbolic. But it was that at training camp. I know you guys remember me. If you watched my training camp coverage, I would consistently say a theme of training camp is coverage sacks. And the reason why I found that fascinating was because two reasons. It meant our secondary was playing lights out. And number two, it means we didn't have wide receivers getting open, because we know Brock Purdy. We know his best attribute is getting open, getting the ball out quickly when it's open. But that wasn't happening at training camp. And it was apparent. And I was like, oh, coverage sack. Oh, coverage sack. Oh, coverage sack. Holding the ball. I came on here, we did our lives. I would talk about it almost every day. I said, this is one of the crazier developments of this training camp is Brock holding on to the football because he has nowhere to go with the ball. And hence entered the conversation about, you might want to have your number one X wide receiver on this team and probably don't want to trade him, because if you're seeing the same thing that I'm seeing, you're seeing I almost feel like Ayuk made more money not practicing because they were like, oh my gosh, he is way more important than we thought. They were like, oh, we thought we could be fine without him. No. Nope. Misjudged that too. So I think one of the things with Purdy, it's a combination of things. You got to be open. Even Baldy did a film breakdown on it. He did a film breakdown of a wide receiver falling, this wide receiver falling, this guy stopping on his route, this guy going out of bounds. He's like, man, someone's got to get open. You got to give your guy an opportunity. And right now, that's a lot of what we've seen in training camp is a lot of Brock looking, and nothing. And guess who's been the best player at 49ers training camp the past 2 seasons? A guy that goes by the name of Brandon Ayuk. So, that's why there's no way Ayuk can get traded. Like, there's no way that you can sit back and be like, yeah, we'll be fine with a couple draft picks and a ham sandwich. We'll get rid of Ayuk. We'll be good with a couple draft picks and some lint covered potato chips. Like, no, not gonna happen. Hashtag pay Brandon Ayuk. I'm over this. Get it done. Tired of it. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. Let's see. Do you see anyone taking the center job from Brendel? It's probably Nick Zakel at this current time. But I don't think Nick Zakel is necessarily a perfect prospect. He's a much improved prospect. He's actually pretty solid in pass protection. He's actually really solid in pass protection. You can tell he's smart in pass protection. He understands where stunts and loops are coming from. He's in the right spot pretty consistently. I can see him get to second level. He makes good decisions. So Zakel, he's playing faster. He's playing smarter. And he's doing pretty well. But I see some of the same issues that Brendel has with stout nose tackles, where you need a little bit of power. He does struggle with some of the power. So, but again, he's young. So I know he's heading into year 3, but he's still inexperienced player, still young. So I think Nick Zakel, with another year, maybe 2 years, we could be talking about him as a legit starter. I would say his most likely outcome into the starting lineup right now is if Brendel gets hurt or just is not playing good. But Zakel, much improved. I talked about it a couple times. I would say you can make the case, you can make the argument that he's maybe the most improved player from this training camp. So that's a good return. What draft pick was I most excited with ever? Oh, man. There's two. There's two. One didn't pan out. One did pan out. So Colin Kaepernick, loved Colin Kaepernick coming out of Nevada. Whoo, boy, did I love him coming out. What did he have? 10,000 passing yards, 4,000 rushing yards. I was like, this guy's the truth. He's the next gen. Cap was my guy. Loved him pre-draft. Was all over. Like, that was my guy. I wanted him to be that guy, and it just didn't turn out. Didn't turn out that way, unfortunately. But I would say in line with Cap was George Kittle. I got into a lot of arguments with people about George Kittle. There was a prominent, I think his name's, is it Travis Clay? Does he do draft stuff? Is that who I think I'm thinking of the right guy? Like, Travis Clay blocked me because he had slandered Kittle, and I said something like, you don't know ball, because like this was, I think, even before Kittle had played. I think he was on the Niners at this point. He was drafted, but Clay was like, "Oh, the Niners need to get another tight end in here," and said some comment about Kittle, and I was like, "Dog, you're an idiot." Clay Travis? Yeah, that sounds familiar. But I got into a lot of arguments with people with George Kittle because I was very adamant about how good George Kittle was, and everyone was like, "Dude, what are you talking about?" Like, you know how when you take a guy who is George Kittle had less than 800 receiving yards over his entire career, and I'm out here on Twitter like, my player comp for George Kittle is Greg Olsen, and Greg Olsen at that time was fresh off 3 consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons in a row. And so everyone was just like, dude, what are you talking about? This guy's closer to being a fullback than being a 1,000-yard receiving tight end. So I got into a lot of arguments with people on draft Twitter. When I like a prospect, I'm dug in, man. And I feel very confident in my ability to see and scout. So, like, yeah, George Kittle, was he a flashy tight end? No. Was he a big name tight end? No. But I thought he was going to be one of the best players in the entire draft. And someone was right. Someone was right. So it's multiple prong. Not only was he a huge draft crush of mine. Again, I wasn't on social media yet with my brand and stuff. So, like, what you saw with Brian Burns was what I was with Kittle. I was obnoxious with Kittle. I was, so when we drafted CJ Beathard, I got really excited because I'm like, oh, I was like, oh my gosh, we took CJ Beathard. I hated the CJ Beathard pick. No disrespect to CJ Beathard, but I did not like that pick. But I was like, wait a second. That means they've watched George Kittle tape. So from the 3rd round until the 5th round, I was just like, come on, be Kittle, be Kittle, be Kittle. And when they took Kittle, I was so freaking hyped. I was so excited. And again, a 5th round tight end named George Kittle turned into I consider him to be the best tight end in the NFL. So I feel very justified in, when you hit like that, when you hit and you're met with lots of opposition, You're met with a lot of people telling you don't know ball. You're met by a lot of people who even do this for a living when you're a nobody, saying you're an idiot, dude. What are you talking about? You're glazing for no reason. I was like, okay, all right, whatever you say. That's why I'm like, that's one of my favorite draft stories is Kittle, because it took a lot of heat. Took a lot of heat for talking about him the way I talked about him. But and again, I didn't do anything. He proved me right every step of the way. He proved me right every step of the way. Luke says, let's be honest, it was Trey Lance. Man, if you know anything about me, you know that I was a massive Justin Fields fan. I was so sad. I was so sad when we didn't take Justin Fields. I was so hurt. I was so hurt by that. Like, I was like, oh my God. It was like, oh God. It's like, why? Why we could have had me and Jason call him our prince. Like, we could have had our prince. That was our prince. He was the chosen one. We could have had him. Honestly, I didn't realize how bad he is at seeing the field. So I feel better about the decision now. But man, all you could see was the talent. All you could see was the arm, was the athletic ability, the leadership intangible. He seemed like a quality leader. I was like, damn, this guy's so good. He's so good. Oh man, I wanted Justin Fields so bad. So bad. And hey, hindsight being what it is, I don't know. I'm still love the category of, if you would have paired Justin Fields with Kyle Shanahan, they would have made it work. Even if you turn Justin Fields into a running back, it would have worked infinitely better than it did with Trey Lance. So like, that's my thing. It's like, okay, you could have withstood the early bumps of him learning the scheme, of him seeing the field, and all of those kinds of things, because he would have been unstoppable in that scheme as a running quarterback. I still believe that to this day. Like, what they attempted to do with Trey Lance and obviously did not work would have absolutely worked with Justin Fields. And I think over time, he could have fit into that role better. But yeah, I'm not too upset about it anymore. If we had Fields, would we have Purdy now? You could still say that. I mean, Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant, so they still could have taken him. They still, like, that's why they took him, is because they needed depth at the position. So they needed a camp arm, right? They needed someone like. So I still think Purdy could have been. I don't think that changes. I don't think that philosophy necessarily changes. So you still could have had Fields and Purdy for sure. So it's just fun to look back. You know, I still think Kyle could have squeezed the most out of Fields. I think Fields would have been able to handle Kyle's coaching. And I think they would have improved. Now, I'm not saying that, I see the limitations that Fields has for sure. Like, he really struggles seeing the field. But I just wonder, would it be like that if he had Kyle's system? I don't know. That's one that, yeah, I think we all failed on that one. Everyone did. You were either a Trey Lance fan, a Justin Fields fan, or Zach Wilson fan. Everyone knew Trevor Lawrence was good, right? Like no one was like, everyone was arguing about who was the best after Trevor Lawrence. And I don't know. That was a fun time though. Yeah, that was pretty. That's crazy. It kind of feels like Mac Jones is going to have a resurgence, though. I'm not going to lie. It feels like you know, now that we've gone this long, there were like some legitimate rumblings that it absolutely was Mac Jones at 3, and then last second they switched. So I've heard from multiple people that it was really Mac Jones at 3, and they pivoted last second to Trey Lance. I won't go any further than that, but it makes you kind of wonder, like, okay, would Mac Jones have been a better quarterback than Trey Lance? I think you have to say yes. I know Mac Jones didn't have a great go at it yet, but he had more success in this league than Trey Lance so far. You have to think, with seeing the success that Kyle's got out of Purdy, they're kind of similar quarterbacks. You're like, damn. It's like, damn, maybe like I didn't want, like I said it a million times. I'll take Mac Jones at 12. I'm not taking Mac Jones at 3. We're moving up to 3. We're going for the Lamborghini. I'm not going for a souped up Civic. You know what I'm saying? I'm going for the Lambo. I want all the bells and whistles. I don't want Mayo Mac at 3. I'll take Mayo Mac at 12 if that's what it comes to. But honestly, all things considered, yeah, yeah, it hurts to say out loud because I was so against it. But Mac Jones at 3 probably would have been better for the 49ers. God, oh, oh, God. It pains me to say that because I was so adamant against Mac Jones. But again, you got to treat all these things are learning lessons, and we've had enough time to reflect. And yeah, the lesson that I learned is can't be closed-minded. Can't be closed-minded. Got to keep an open mindset through evaluation. Man, what a fun time. Fun time. Fun time. Anyways, we're talking about rookies because we're hyped on the 49ers rookies that they've been able to draft and seemingly hit on. So we're definitely excited about how things have turned out, and it does appear promising that, I don't think Dominick Puni is starting just because of injury. I think Dominick Puni is going to be your starting right tackle for a long, not right tackle. He's going to be a starting offensive lineman on this team for a lot of years. What happens after that is up to him. But yeah, man. I'm looking forward to what we get out of that guy. But appreciate everyone tapping in to all the content, all the good stuff. Appreciate y'all. What's today? Wednesday. You know the vibes. Will be back tomorrow with more content. Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams watch continues. Man, hopefully this thing gets figured out sooner rather than later. But smash that like button for me on the way out. Grab your cookies. I'm out of here. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see you.